evening, friends, and welcome to Cocktail Hour, Autumn Edition. Sadly, it is no longer the season of the mint julep and other delicious cold cocktails, although one may still have them. It's very cold in my apartment, and I'm going to be going onto the roof to have a socially distanced cocktail with a friend, and so I thought this is a time to make a hot toddy. So that's what we're going to be doing. Also, I will say that the hot toddy, the issue to me always with the hot toddy is that as soon as you start to drink it, it is no longer hot because it's like partly boiling water, but it's also, you know, whiskey that isn't hot, and like, I don't know, they tell you to like pour water into the glass in advance so the glass gets warm, and none of these things actually have a lasting effect in my experience, and so I thought the thermos. So we're going to try that. We're going to see how it goes. So I did actually prep the thermoses by pouring hot water in them in advance, and you can't see the steam that's coming out of them, but there was steam coming out of them, so they're extra pre-warmed. All right, so it calls for 6 ounces of boiling water, which we do have 6 ounces of boiling water in here. And this, friends, is a double recipe because we're making one for me and one for a friend. So we have additional hot water that has been boiling in our kettle. Just pouring it, we're measuring it. I have a new measuring cup that measures from the top, so those of you who are yelling at the screen because you're science people that I need to bend down to look at the meniscus, I do not. This is not my first rodeo. Okay, also good news that the plastic measuring cup, you can pour boiling water in it and it doesn't melt, which today's the day that we learned that, so that's good news because it would have been live and on Facebook, melting plastic and boiling water. Okay, now it calls for 2 ounces of whiskey. It calls for bourbon, but we're out of bourbon, so we're going to be using rye. So 1, 2, again, we're not measuring as carefully as we could. It's a little bit of a generous 2 to 3 ounces. Yeah, we're not really doing this recipe like they're saying in a lot of ways. We're also spilling liberally because the mouth of the thermos is very narrow. Okay, cool. And now it is calling for a 1/2 ounce of honey, but we are out of honey, and so we're going to be using a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. So we'll be doing that. I can smell the smell of some nice warm whiskey wafting up here to my nose, which hopefully will be good. Again, this doesn't have a 1/2 ounce measure, so we're just doing the best we can, but we were a little extra with the whiskey, so I think it's okay actually. And the rye is a little bit less sweet than the bourbon, so hopefully in combination all of that will be all good. I think it is worth giving this puppy a little bit of a stir, just so that all those things melt nicely together. I'm going to tell you that the wafting is like serious wafting of whiskey steam. Okay, cool. Then it tells you to garnish. Mind you, no one's going to see the garnish, but I still feel like the garnish might add flavor. And let me tell you, it tells you to garnish it with a large clove-studded lemon twist. I did prepare that in advance because it actually is not that easy to stud cloves into a lemon twist. I only put 3 of them into this one, and I only put 4 of them into this one, and they got a little crushed and strange. So that's just how that is, and I'm sure it will be getting in my way as I try to pour, but that's it. That's all it calls for. So we're just gonna close this puppy up because it's a thermos, and then it's just gonna stay warm, and maybe we'll just have a tiny little bit of a taste just before our friend comes to see if it turned out okay. Pretty good. Could be hotter, you know? I think it's that the whiskey is room temperature, but you can't really do anything about that. But yeah, so at least it's gonna stay warm in the thermos and not gonna get colder with the room temperature. And maybe I just have an unrealistic standard about what the hot toddy should be like. But I hope that you enjoyed this drink and that it is warm enough in your experience, and maybe you're not just as unrealistic and strange as me. One day it will be warm outside again, and we will go back to the mint juleps of yore. But for now, cheers.